Mr. Dan McClory, live from Irvine, California, another place with great weather, Managing Director of Burnham Securities. He's also the head of both China and West Coast Investment Banking. Good to see you, sir. So the speech from President Xi, a lot has been made from the dinner speech, and I've heard a lot of different comments. I want to get your perspective on this.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think President Xi knew exactly what he was doing, Phil, when he showed up first in Seattle instead of Washington, D.C. He's taking the message to America: I'm here to buy, I'm here to sell, I'm here to do business. And that's really taking the edge out of all of the confrontational dialogue that we've heard. Hopefully it doesn't creep into the discussions in D.C. But he did this in a very, very pragmatic way, came and acquired this watershed order, as you talked about, of tens of billions of dollars of airplanes, and at the same time extracted an investment in China to help move Boeing forward, to catch up on the basically 8-year lead time that Airbus has had on Boeing. I think he's played this particularly well. I think starting with the governors, to getting them on side. The foreign direct investment that China has put into the American states has been phenomenal. It's really, really peaking right now. So I think this has come across very well. It's been a very open sign of the China-U.S. economic relationship.
Dan, when you speak to your fellow colleagues and various executives around the country, and you guys talk about China, there's obviously the concern of a slower growth over there. But relating back to the speech, does that change the way executives look at China over the next 2 or 3 years when we look at a slowing economy? But then we have some what appears to be fairly positive comments from the president.
I think it does. I think it starts to cast things again in a more pragmatic, more positive light. And that's what we've seen. You know, we've seen that, again, despite some national rhetoric, some national dialogue, some issues that are attempting to pull these two countries apart. We've seen that at the end of the day, deals are getting done. Business people are coming together. They're making informed decisions. They're deciding that it's in their best interest to be working with each other. And this is being led by President Xi, and at this point, a cadre of governors and American states that have seen fit to welcome China with open arms.
Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot. I apologize ahead of time. So if you're talking to the White House, what are they doing wrong?
Well, I think they obviously understand where the power is, and it's at the state level. And companies are going to do business. You know, Phil, you've seen it, I've seen it. At the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, there's a sign that says, "Whoever has come this far cannot be a stranger." Well, guess what? President Xi showed up. He's come a long distance. He's sitting down first and foremost to do business. I think that's done a great job of disarming any tensions that may be reflected in these pending conversations in Washington. And it's something, frankly, that President Obama didn't have the opportunity to do because he's not making those decisions at the state level.
You are a very well-versed political guy. I know that. And this deal between Boeing obviously is going to create jobs in China and maybe more jobs in the United States as well. But isn't that something that a lot of voters and a lot of people think about is when we talk about these deals, the first thing they think about is, well, how does it benefit me?
Absolutely. Well, as was pointed out, Phil, you're a veteran of the Pacific Northwest, right? You know that area, you know Seattle. You know Boeing checked out of town and headed to Chicago some time ago. You know that now it's about playing to our advantages. It's not necessarily, just like with China, about a manufacturing economy. It's about services. It's about engineering. It's about high value add. So I think right now what we're seeing is an order of the magnitude that President Xi brought to the U.S. in the form of those 300 planes for Boeing is welcomed. The details about the finishing work being done, a factory being started in China, I think that's going to pale in comparison to the wave of positive sentiment that will accrue from that landslide order.
If you had a chance to go over to China, I know you go there often, and talk to the politicians over there, what's one thing that you would ask them?
Come to America. Look at what we're doing. Find opportunities. You know, we recently completed a transaction outside of Detroit where Henniges Automotive was acquired by AVIC, one of the state-owned enterprises in China. It was done through the Bohai Harvest Rosemont Fund. That's where deals are getting done. It wasn't any accident that U.S. governors showed up in Seattle, that the mayor of Beijing and the governor of Shanghai also came. This is where the exchanges take place. This is where the deals get done. This is where the relationships are built. And I think that's something we have to keep in mind in this exchange.
Dan, I suspect that almost every person that's watching the show right now likely agrees with you. But then when you watch what Donald Trump is saying and you watch what some of the political people are saying about the relationship with China, it's honestly not that positive. And aren't we sending a mixed signal to China?
We are. And I think whenever you get into an election year, when you get into these hotly contested Republican primaries, the bombastic rhetoric gets out there regardless. I think John Huntsman, who was once a Republican presidential candidate and the former ambassador to China, he said, listen, the people in China who know understand this is our season, this is the rhetoric, this is what we're going to hear. It doesn't really reflect in our actions. Look at the deals we're getting done. Look at $4.6 billion of Chinese investment in the U.S., 88 deals in the first 6 months of this year. That's a heck of a lot more telling than any political rhetoric.
All right, Dan, always good to see you. Thank you very much for spending some time with us with your insights.